What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that is the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What that does is that it helps to ensure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, please do me a favor and do yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to inform your family and friends of this news and content. And also, that helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's now get into today's news. Now, for those of you who don't know, we're headed back to New York, which is where we spend most of our time concerning the migrant crisis. We go back and forth between New York and Chicago. But today we're going to be in New York, and very interesting news coming out of New York. Eric Adams is now getting ready to implement metal detectors. They're going to place metal detectors inside of migrant shelters now. So for more detail on this, what I want to do is pull up this news clip. I haven't watched it yet, but we can both now watch it together, you and me. So let's get into this clip right now and see what's happening in New York concerning these metal detectors.
More violence involving migrants.
2 people were arrested after yet another fight breaks out at the Randall's Island shelter.
Right, Fox 5's Morgan McKay joins us now in studio. And Morgan, the mayor planning to take some major action in response to this latest accident.
I want to speak to that very quickly. So another fight breaks out at Randall's Island. Randall's Island, if I remember correctly, is also the same migrant shelter, illegal immigrant shelter, right? Where the video was released of multiple NYPD officers being attacked with all type of blunt objects being thrown at them, chairs being thrown at them, simply because they were trying to arrest an illegal immigrant in one of those migrant shelters. Fights and all type of violent acts breaks out in that migrant shelter all the time. So much so that that shelter has actually been coined with the nickname of the Death Shelter. So that Randall's Island shelter is a very violent place, to say the very least.
Steve and Natasha, at least 2 migrants were arrested and charged yesterday after a fight broke out at the Randall's Island migrant shelter. But this comes as Mayor Eric Adams is also pushing for changes to the sanctuary city laws that would allow the NYPD to turn migrants accused of a crime over to ICE.
You don't have to be a behavioral scientist to state that we're creating a terrible environment.
Mayor Eric Adams says the city is installing metal detectors at the migrant shelter on Randall's Island, and he is planning a visit to the site after another fight broke out at the shelter Monday night. According to the NYPD, a 23-year-old migrant struck a security guard in the face, causing a scuffle.
So we have another incident. This is typical coming out of New York, but if we're being honest, remember what the Riverside police chief in Illinois said as well. Whenever it comes to the illegal immigrant migrants, when you're chasing them down after they've committed a crime, this is what the Riverside police chief stated. After they've committed a crime, number one, they never surrender. So it always turns into a foot pursuit or a car pursuit. But the other thing that he noted was that whenever you catch them within that pursuit, they always fight you back. It always turns into a physical altercation. And this is something that we have seen repeatedly in New York. And we see and hear about this so much more in New York than in Chicago, where security guards, not just NYPD, but security guards who are trying to do their job and break up fight and just put in place basic rules for the migrants to follow while they're in these shelters. The moment they try to impose any type of rule on them to just say, hey, you can't do this, do that, all of a sudden you find yourself becoming a victim to illegal immigrant migrant violence. This is a reoccurring issue that is happening over and over and over again in New York City, and nothing is being done about it. That is amazing. Once again, I haven't watched this yet, so I didn't see this coming. I thought that this was just going to be, from what we're hearing and right now, is going to be 2 fights, a fight between 2 migrants. But no, it started because, once again, an illegal immigrant migrant assaulted a security guard once again. Amazing, simply amazing.
2 migrants were placed under arrest and charged, but this marks the 3rd violent incident to occur at the shelter in just the last several months.
What I hate that they're not doing is that they're not highlighting the fact that they keep assaulting the security guards. They're not highlighting that. They're just saying, well, this is violent altercation. It's not just violent altercations that occur. It's not just simply that. but it's the fact that when it comes to any type of law enforcement on any level, whether you're talking about an hourly wage security guard or if you're talking about the NYPD, they feel very comfortable harming these security guards and NYPD officers. They feel very comfortable assaulting them because they know and understand that they are protected under the sanctuary city policy, where NYPD is not allowed to communicate with ICE. They're not allowed to communicate with the federal law enforcement to get these guys out of here. So they feel very safe and comfortable assaulting law enforcement because they know there's not going to be any consequences. That's simply what's going on here in New York City right now.
Adams again renewed his call to the White House to give migrants faster access to work papers.
You place 1,000 people in one setting and tell them they can't work. All they can do is sit around all day. Tempers flare.
Adams is also
That's not an excuse for constantly assaulting security guards and police officers. That just doesn't even make logical sense.
making it clear that he wants to make changes to the sanctuary city laws. Under Mayor Ed Koch and Mayor Michael Bloomberg, the NYPD was allowed to alert ICE when a migrant was accused or arrested for allegedly committing crimes. However, now migrants are only passed along to ICE if they have been convicted of a crime. Immigration advocates are staunchly against this change, and Council Speaker Adrienne Adams says she has no plans of introducing anything like this legislatively. But Adams says migrants accused of committing multiple robberies should not be allowed to wait here while their case plays out.
They didn't give due process to the person that they shot or punched or killed. We can't have these small number of migrants and asylum seekers that have identified that they're going to be dangerous, hide under the law.
An audit by the city.
I mean, I agree with them 100% on that. How is it that, they're out here punching, shooting, stabbing, and killing folks, but we have to give them due process under the law? We just can't deport them, even though we caught them in 4K shooting, punching, stabbing, and robbing folks. Doesn't matter that we have that video footage. You're already here illegally. You're already participating in asylum fraud. And outside of the fact that you're here illegally participating in asylum fraud, you're being put up in shelters, you're being housed, you're being fed, you're getting free health care, you're getting cash payments. Some of you are getting those debit cards, which can equate to up to $1,000 if you say that you have a family of 4. You're getting all of this and you disrespect that hospitality by committing crime. At that point, forget due process, because you've already been given more than enough. It's time for you to be removed immediately. You're removed and handed over to ICE immediately, and they will deal with whatever they're going to do concerning your crimes and how you should be handled from there. That's out of the hands of New York at that point. And that's simply exactly how it should be. Anything outside of that is completely ridiculous and crazy, if you ask me.
Comptroller was also released on Tuesday that showed the city has been overcharged at times for migrant services.
Let me rewind that back just a little bit.
That they're going to be dangerous, hide under the law.
An audit by the city comptroller was also released on Tuesday that showed the city has been overcharged at times for migrant services due to the city procuring no-bid contracts.
What we're calling for now is to go through a procurement process that would make sure we get the most competitive price for all these services.
Adams defended the contracts on Tuesday, saying they did the best they could at the time when these contracts were inked.
Because of our response, no child, no family sleeps on the streets of the city of New York.
And the thanks that you get in return is crime, crime, and more crime. And the thanks that the New York City citizens get in return for funding all of this with their tax dollars is that what they get to do is sit back and watch their city get disrespected. They get to watch their people get violated. And after being disrespected and violated, they get to watch the illegal migrant go free and not be deported, let alone go to jail in New York City. They get to watch them walk off without even receiving a cash bail, despite the fact that they're already legally in the country participating in asylum fraud. And the thanks that you get is a punch in the face and watching them walk off free afterwards. Simply amazing. Simply amazing. I don't really know what to say outside of that, other than the fact that yeah, the metal detectors are cool, and they should be put in place. I mean, that makes logical sense to do so when you're looking at the level of violence that's taking place in New York City around these migrant shelters and within the migrant shelters, and the fact that you have very violent gangs, Venezuelan gangs, that have made their way to New York City. I believe the name of the gang is Terrain de Aragua. I did a live stream on that not too long ago. They're recruiting out of these shelters, and then you also take into consideration as well. Not too long ago, I believe it was sometime last week or maybe last weekend, a 17 or 16-year-old migrant was stabbed in the back with a huge steak knife after a migrant brawl broke out in front of a shelter. I believe it was in Times Square. So yeah, the metal detectors need to go up, but there also needs to be changes to the sanctuary city policy, outside of the fact that it just needs to be removed completely. But if you can't remove it completely, I mean, come on, let's at least get in there some basic changes to where NYPD can collaborate with ICE to remove these criminals out the city. But we'll see how that turns out. Most likely that's not going to be the case. But once again, I'll keep an eye on this to see what's going on and make sure to give you guys any updates concerning the situation. And until then, thank you for joining me. On your way out, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, share this video on your social media platforms, follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group, and I will catch you guys later. Peace. Have a great afternoon.